you know, it says, students will identify sexual absence as the appropriate choice. And, instead of saying an appropriate choice. Is that mandated by state law that it be the appropriate choice?
Here's what I would like to do, if you don't mind. I would like to, if you wouldn't mind holding that question for when we get to ninth grade. I'd like to deal, you know, see if we can get some, either we're gonna talk about personal boundaries and things here in ninth grade or not, if I can take that. And then we're going, after we finish these two objectives, then we're gonna start, we have 4 more objectives for 8th grade, and then we'll start with ninth grade. So I think that's the appropriate question here. If you're okay with that.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
So, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the changes.
Okay, adopt 9.3 changes?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the changes for 9.3, please raise your hand.
Come on.
Opposed? 2.
Can you tell me what it is again? I'm sorry. What was her amendment? I apologize. Or what was her, what are we changing on 9.3?
There's no changes on 9.3.
Just keeping it as is?
Right.
Okay.
It was, it was 9, oh,
As
she
written.
changed 8.4, the first
As
one.
amended by the staff.
Right. Sorry, and then 9.4, emotional social health was amended to keep the conflict resolution. The 9.3, human growth and development, as we amended as staff, as recommended by
So
staff.
this is a staff recommendation?
Right, this is just adding the personal boundaries.
Okay, all right, it's adding the word abstinence, right? So you're adding what's underlined.
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to divide the question.
Okay. Into
Just
what
accept it.
So the setting personal boundaries, I'm fine adding setting personal boundaries.
Okay.
And, you know, respect for self and others. Those are good things. We should probably all agree on those. Refusal skills, that's probably part of setting personal boundaries, okay. But deleting promoting and maintaining self-worth and resisting peer pressure, I think is a negative change. I think that should stay in. And I think adding the word abstinence is probably inappropriate.
So
So I think we should vote on each of those changes separately.
I'm sorry, I need to check the procedural thing here, so we voted.
Adding the word abstinence, that's one piece.
Okay.
Deleting, promoting and maintaining self-worth and resisting peer pressure, that's the second piece.
Okay.
If we want to keep the rest of that as one piece, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Probably vote on the third one.
Okay. So we're divided into three parts. Okay. So the first thing is instruction will include effective strategies for abstinence as piece one. And now we debate that. So would you like to speak to? Yes, ma'am.
So I agree with everything that has been said so far, and I think we should not be adding the word abstinence because it's already addressed in the original like bolded objective. So I think it's redundant and it repeats itself, and it's not the only like it says effective strategies for abstinence, but I think it's more it's better if we put promoting and maintaining self-worth, just because it's broader and it contains a lot more than just abstinence.
Okay. Anyone like to speak against?
I guess it's just, I'm trying to kind of come to terms with the fact that we have legal requirements under Virginia law to teach abstinence throughout K-12. And, you know, it's in the verbiage of the lesson objective. And it just kind of stands to reason that the descriptive statement would sort of bring out, okay, a little bit more about what's actually going to be taught. And given that it's essentially a legal requirement that there be discussion of these issues, it would make sense to sort of, from a sort of truth in advertising standpoint, certainly from a parental point of view, to have, you know, oh, okay, this is actually what's going to be taught here.
All right, so my question is, again, back to the question I had before, what specifically is the legal requirement? Because I don't want us to adopt anything that contravenes state law. I think we need to follow the state law whether we like it or not. But if it's not required, then, you know, I think it shouldn't be there.
I think we had that on the last meeting of the agenda.
And, you know, if we had this discussion, you know, unfortunately, I'm new to the committee, so I can't. Sorry.
And then it's 22.1-207.1, thing like education, where it says abstinence education without postponing sexual activity. So,
Is that in the crosswalk package?
well, it's in the code, so I would.
Right, are you- Perhaps it would make sense to defer this until we can look at what the requirement is.
So we need 2 more people to speak before we vote.
So I confess I'm still teasing out what I'm supporting, but I would like to share a reaction I had to this language. Since the main statement does reference abstinence and it is intended to promote abstinence, I didn't initially have a problem with just referencing it once again later in the objective. I did, however, feel uncomfortable equating self-worth with abstinence. So actually, I might prefer to just reference once again abstinence rather than include a statement about self-worth in an objective intended to promote abstinence, if that makes sense.
Anyone else?
If no one else wants to speak, then I think we can move to.
Right, I think we
Oh, so I would move to postpone, not postpone indefinitely, postpone till the next meeting so we can get clarity as to what the legal requirement as to teaching absence is in this one, and I take it also would apply to the 9th through 12th.
He's a lawyer. He knows what the code says.
Thank you.
Make sure that the compliance.
Oh, man.
Is there a second for the postponement?
Question, if it's in the code, we have to do that. That's what I'm thinking.
So they, so the substance is to postpone. So we're comfortable with, so you want to speak to postpone them, or postpone? Postpone until I can provide everybody the information.
I'm okay with voting now.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not in favor of it? Okay. Yes,
But
ma'am.
it looks as though you went through this in February, in the minutes.